Hello and you're welcome to the Big Tech Show with me, Adrian Weckler. Is Ireland's newest mobile operator worth ditching your current service for? Because today, Sky Mobile has launched what it thinks is the be-all and end-all of value mobile offerings. A tenner a month for almost everything, or €15 per month for life, for unlimited service and the ability to buy a phone with that. We'll also, by the way, a little bit later be going through a few recommendations for those going back to college. But first to Sky Mobile and JJ Clark. I'd have to say, looking at this is something I think I'm going to end up recommending to people.
Okay, and why is that? Where does it sit in relation to the competition in Ireland in that regard?
The big value propositions at the moment are Gomo and 48. So Gomo is owned by Air, 48 is owned by Three. Gomo uses Air's mobile network, 48 uses Three's mobile network. They are €15 and €13 a month respectively. You can't buy them in a shop, you order the SIM card online, it comes, you put it in your phone. They both offer pretty much unlimited data. They both have fair use limits, but it's well over 100 gigabytes a month. They're both pretty good. They're competitive, they've disrupted the market. I tend to recommend both. This is a bit better. And the reason it's a bit better is, firstly, it's about the same price. So if you want unlimited, absolutely everything, with no fair use limit, you'll pay €15 a month for life. So it won't go up, because the trend at the moment in mobile and broadband and other telecoms is they call it CPI, the CPI index, so inflation plus 2 or 3% a year on lots of people's mobiles bills. This is immune from that. By the way, so is Gomo and 48. They don't tend to go up anymore. But there are a couple of advantages that this has. Number one, you can buy it in a shop. So you can go into a Sky store and buy it. Now, that may not mean a lot to you or to me. I wouldn't really need to do that. That's going to mean something to people, because one of the biggest issues that people have with Gomo or 48 is when something goes wrong and they're forced to use the funnel of the text messaging or the chat. There's nowhere they can go to. They can't go into a Three shop just because Three owns 48, or an Air shop just because Air owns Gomo.
And are they running into those kind of problems anyway? Like, are we talking about old people here that like to go to a bricks and mortar shop and that like to deal with a person and have it explained to them? Or is
Not
it
just old people, not just old
Right.
people, but I think you're on the right track. I think it's people who are used to getting service. But also, if you look at the resources that are put to customer service and put into dealing with issues, Sky says that it's going to be hired. That Sky has hired, I think it's 20 new people just to deal with this. Now, you can say what you want about Sky. They're normally on the pricier end of things when it comes to things like TV. Not for broadband, by the way, but for TV. On this, they're going to really pump an awful lot of investment into their back-end customer service. So that is kind of a good thing. So there's a couple of other reasons why I think this might work, say, for a family. So one of the perks of this is that if you say there are two plans. One is €10 a month, and that's for 10 gigabytes of data. Basically, it's almost like a prepay option. It's not actually a prepay option because you have to log a credit card. By the way, it's per month and not per 28 days, as one or two rivals have tried. It's per month. If you do that, you get 10 gigabytes of data a month. That's not enough for me, but it probably will be enough for some people. But if you don't use that data, it keeps mounting up. So you use 7 gigabytes one month, you get an extra 3 gigabytes to use next month. So you now have 13 gigabytes. Any data you don't use keeps adding up for 3 years. That's one advantage. The other big advantage is in a family situation. Let's say you're a parent, or let's say you have an elderly parent and you're buying a phone for someone else, and you're going to get the unlimited one for yourself, and you're going to get the 10 gigabyte per month one for someone else. So €15 for you, €10 a month for them. By virtue of having the €15 per month package, you automatically get 5 gigabytes to give to somebody else who's on a 10 gigabyte package. So if I'm the parent and I have a kid who is on the cheaper package, if I'm getting the unlimited version for €15, it's unlimited data for me, but I, as a bonus, get 5 gigabyte to give to them as long as I'm on the unlimited package.
every
month.
Okay, so
So it's actually 15 gigabytes
Right.
now that they get.
And they're not going to hit the edge of that, if they are, a typical teenager, prolific YouTube watcher, TikTok, etc.
Well, not if they're at home. They would if they were using that outside home. So it really depends on whether they've loads of mates and they hang out down on the green, and then or at the local shopping centre, and then they will hit that pretty quickly. But you'll kind of know, I think, fairly soon whether that is the case. So that's the basic deal.
Is this being, you mentioned the competition earlier, is this being marketed uniquely at younger people per se, or not at all?
I don't know. I haven't seen
Mass
any
market?
of the ads. I'm not sure. But I mean, I would say, if you were asking me now, up until now, if you had asked me what the best ones to get were, if you were very price sensitive, I would have said 48. I would have said 48, I think, probably is the best value overall service you can get. It's €13 a month. Very hard to beat that for unlimited, pretty much unlimited data. And by the way, there's a big asterisk with that pretty much. So if you're like a mega heavy streamer or gamer, you may run into problems with that if you're doing it outside the home, outside your home Wi-Fi, but the vast majority of people wouldn't get near it. And then I would have said Gomo after that. And then a few of the others after that. And you're back into your 3 and your Vodafone, but you're into €20, €25, €30 a month at that point. Looking at the sums of money they're investing in it, I can't see how they make money on this in the first couple of years. It's over the long haul that they might actually do it. It's worth noting that you can also buy a phone with this service.
Right.
So, and what's interesting about that is, there's no iPhone at launch, by the way. It's Samsung S24. There's one from HMD, which has the Nokia brand. And then someone else, I think it's Xiaomi as well,
Okay.
a phone. But once they separate out the contract, so let's say you're paying your €15 a month. And if you are buying a phone, say a Samsung S24 with that, they basically divide the cost of the Samsung S24 into 24 monthly payments, 0%, and that's what you pay. And as soon as that's paid off, it automatically comes off your bill. Now, this is an issue because this is a benefit, because if you look at sort of Vodafone, 3, Air, if you go bill pay with them and you buy a phone with them, they usually will tell you when your contract is, coming to an end, or what your options are, or whether you're due an upgrade. That's usually the way they phrase it. But Sky Mobile today, we're talking about research that they've done in which they believe 300,000 Irish mobile customers currently pay the additional sum that they were charged when they were buying a phone, even after that phone is paid off. So if you take say a 24-month contract with one of the big operators and you buy an iPhone with it, for example, they will charge you something like €65 a month, because they'll charge you the cost of the monthly tariff, which is maybe €25 or €30, and then they'll charge you the rest is the cost of the iPhone. But that iPhone is a 24-month contract. At the end of the 24 months, the iPhone is paid off. You will get your next bill on the 25th month, and it'll still be €60, which is pure profit.
But surely they have some sort of, I suppose they have some sort of fiscal responsibility or fiduciary responsibility to say,
So,
hey, it's...
yeah, consumer law has evolved in the last couple of years, and they are required now to make the customer aware, or at least to make the effort aware, that the contract's coming to an end and that here are your options. That will work to a certain degree, but even if they do that, there are a bunch of people for whom, a communication from Vodafone 3 will go right into a spam bucket.
That's what I was
You won't
just
see
thinking.
it. You won't see
mad.
it. But they can still say that they tried. Okay? But and you're kind of thinking that there still are a bunch of people in Ireland who believe that that's just the price of a monthly mobile bill. If you talk to, and I will say it is mainly older people who are used to all of their life, the cost for your monthly mobile bill was maybe €70 or €55, €60. That's how much they think a normal mobile bill is. And so if they're just seeing it coming out of their bank account, the credit card, €55, it's not something that raises a massive red flag. So they'll just keep paying it for
Right.
months.
But I mean, you don't know what you don't know for those, the sort of the older age cohort. But still, that seems like there should be a person calling you and letting you know Because otherwise, how much are they banking? Like,
A lot. They're banking a lot. Now, if you talk to
crazy.
mobile operators, they'll get the violin out and say, "Oh, it's unbelievably competitive, and like the amount of players who are now in the market, and etc." And they have sort of a half a point there. But historically, big mobile networks in Ireland, historically, with the exception of three, if you look at Vodafone and O2, which was Digifone and which Three bought, those two companies made an absolute fortune out of the Irish market, particularly Vodafone, which used to be called Aircel. Like for years and years, it was absolute cream, super profits. So, if they're only making normal profits now, then, too bad.
Yeah.
But let's move on, though, because one of the audiences that might find it useful is students. And I've had a look at back to school or back to college tech, a couple of recommendations. Now, I am conscious that when I'm talking about this, I don't know how many school kids are listening to me now. I don't know how many college students even are listening to me. I would say that it's likely that it's more the parents of school kids who are listening to me now. So, keep all that in mind. But I've picked out a few things. I've picked out headphones, I've picked out earbuds, I've picked out a laptop, I've picked out a phone, which is not an iPhone, and I've picked out a rechargeable portable speaker. So I'm going to start with the headphones.
Right.
Yeah. And the pair I've gone with is a pair called the JLab HBuds Lux ANC. Okay. Active noise cancelling. Now, the reason I've gone for these is there's millions and millions and millions of noise cancelling wireless headphones out there, and some of them are really good and some of them are really cheap, but there are literally dozens of pairs. Walk into any Harvey Norman, Curry's, DID, you're going to see lots and lots of pairs there, and they generally start actually now from about 50, 60 quid. The really good pairs start from about 200 quid. But this is as close as you'll get to a really good pair for around 100 quid.
Yeah, and it's important to say that I suppose a lot of students are going to be commuting. It's the natural, run of things now to have your headphones in when you're, transiting, a Lewis or a bus or, a Dart. So you're going to have your headphones in, or, like re-listening to a lecture or, these kind of things. You are constantly using your Bluetooth headphones, and these are, these are headphones as opposed to buds or anything like that, and they're reasonable sound quality as well, good noise cancellation.
Yeah, nothing beats a pair of headphones that lets you cut out the crap that's going on around you. And that's not just students, by the way. That can happen in an office. It can happen you're walking out the street. Buds do go about 60, 70% of the way now. They used to only go 20 or 30%. They will go 60 or 70% if you have a good pair of noise cancelling buds. But the diamond service standard is still your headphones, the absolute peak are your Sony WH-1000 XM5s, maybe your AirPods Max. They're very good. Bose are very, very good as well. The Bose Quiet Comforts, absolutely excellent. I recently reviewed a Dyson pair, actually, the OnTrax. They were very good as well, but they're 500 quid. So, and most of the pairs I've just mentioned there cost at least €350.
Yeah, and if you're a parent as well, I suppose if we're cataloguing the stuff that your daughter or your son might need, you're sort of going to maybe buy one or two items, at a maximum, really, unless you're, you just won a lottery or something.
Yeah, so the reason I picked these ones is the noise cancellation on them is very good. They're very comfortable. The audio quality is very good on them. They fold up, which, by the way, a lot of the newer ones now don't. You have to, carry them in a case. Like the ones for the AirPods Max, for example, looks like a little handbag.
Yeah, and I mean, space is a premium in someone's bag, and college students aren't very kind to their stuff in the first place.
No. So that's the headphones, JLab, JBuds, Lux, ANC. I said HBuds originally. It's actually JBuds. JLab, JBuds, Lux, ANC. It's about 100 quid. Going to the earbuds. Now, for students, I just mentioned one or two, good headphones. You're not going to get a very good pair of noise cancelling earbuds for under €200. You just won't. And a lot of people hesitate to spend more than 100 quid on a pair of buds because they're afraid they'll lose them. You lose one, or you lose the box. So the ones I've gone for are Samsung's Buds FE. FE stands for Fan Edition. They make an FE version of their high-end phones. And what they do is they wait 6 months. They have a slightly stripped-down version of their flagship phone. They call it an FE version. They sell it for about 25% less. Okay. And they're usually pretty good. And these Buds are really good. They're entry-level noise cancellation earbuds, okay? They don't have all of the bells and whistles of the Galaxy Buds Pro, but nice, snug, secure fit, usable noise cancellation. They're not class leading, but they will cut out some noise. And they have a relatively high spec for what you're paying.
And just with the Samsung, is it any easier to set up with Samsung versus, an iPhone or anything like that with the Bluetooth setup?
There's a slight ecosystem benefit, yes. Yeah. When you take out AirPods, for example, when you open the box, you have this lovely little graphic on your iPhone where a little animation comes up and asks you to name your buds or your AirPods, and it will allow you to pair them with immediately. Something very similar happens with the Samsung Buds and Samsung Galaxy phone. So yeah, very, very nice. Decent battery life on them as well. Really very, very solid pair of buds, 100 quid. The laptop I've gone with, this is quite a difficult choice because there are two types of student laptop. There's one where you just want something basic but totally competent that will absolutely do the job. It's not going to crap out. It's not going to stall. But you really are not into spending $1,000 on a laptop. And then there's the other use case, which is, no, I'm going to be in college for 3 or 4 or 5 years. I want something, I'm going to live with this thing. I really want good quality, and I'll spend a couple of, and maybe I am willing to spend $1,000. So I've gone for 2 models here. On the basic, very competent, will definitely do the job and should last you a couple of years model, for 700 quid, I've gone for Acer's Aspire 5. Mainly because the spec you get on it is actually very good on this laptop. You get 16 gigabytes of RAM, a 1 terabyte storage solid state drive, which is really, really good, and an Intel i7 processor. I mean, these are specs where 3 or 4 years ago you would have been paying €1,500, $2,000 for something like this. So that's what I would advise for that. And then if you do have a little bit more to spend, you really can't beat a MacBook Air M2.
They're just so sleek, and I did my master's about 3 or 4 years ago, and I got a MacBook, when I started, and it was just fantastic, and the smoothness of just any operation you use on it, and this is kind of down to your son or your daughter. You're sort of checking in with them if they really want a MacBook Air. Maybe it's a different conversation you might have with them, whereas there is a big difference between €1,000, and €29 and €719.
Yeah, I mean, there is. Now, look, if I was buying one of these for myself, I'd definitely go for the MacBook, because 300 quid, I'm going to have a laptop for 4 years. 300 quid over 4 years is 70 quid a year in the difference. If I'm using that every week or every day,
Monday to Friday, and
you like the return on investment there is massive. Now, I went for a MacBook Air M2 as opposed to an M3. The newest model is an M3, and that'll set you back another couple of €100. You're into your 13, 14, €1,500 range there. But the MacBook Air M2, I mean, I bought one of those 2 years ago, I think, and it still absolutely holds up. It's a fantastic machine. And if you're a student, they still sell it as new. It's still on their range of new models. You're absolutely fine with the minimum 8 gigabytes specification, unless you're doing some heavy graphics stuff or you're really into audiovisual editing. And even if you are, it's still actually okay. I've edited videos and photos on it, 8 gigabytes of RAM, because the processor is so good. And the big difference between MacBooks and a lot of other laptops, particularly Windows laptops, is since they went with those M1, M2, M3 chips, the battery life is out of this world. You'll get, on any of the M series MacBooks, MacBook Pro or MacBook Air, you'll easily get 13, 14, 15 hours of continual use. Guaranteed a full day from the absolute start of the day right through to late night. So that's what I would what I would get if I was getting myself a MacBook Air M2. But if you're looking to save a few quid and you want something that's still pretty decent and reliable, Acer Aspire 5. On the phone, like, it's very hard to convince somebody who is used to an iPhone or wants an iPhone that, that you're not going to get them an iPhone. But let's say that is the case and you do have someone who's agnostic. And particularly if it's a secondary school student as opposed to a college student, I think Nothing's phones. Nothing is a new brand, relatively new brand. Carl Pei, who was responsible for creating OnePlus, he created this new brand called Nothing a few years ago. Like the Seinfeld show, it's a phone about nothing. But that's the name of the brand, Nothing. It's Nothing Phone 2A. And this is they only have 2 or 3 models. And this is their budget model. But it still is really, really good for what you're getting. The screen on it is really nice, really fast, really bright, really colorful, 120 hertz screen. Fantastic battery, 5,000 milliamp battery on it. And the cameras are absolutely decent. So it also has this very quirky design where the back of it lights up in different ways because it has different sets of LED lights in arrangements. It's called a glyph setup, and you can program it to light up in a different way depending on whether it's a message or a call or different things. So a little bit quirky.
Right.
But for €329 for Nothing's Phone 2A, that's kind of unbeatable. It's very hard to beat that.
Yeah, I'm always suspicious about new phones and, do you have to swipe up or swipe down, or is there some really weird hand movements that you have to get through, or the apps, you have to double tap them?
No, with Android phones, they've largely copied the iPhone modus operandi of swiping up from the bottom or swiping up and holding and then swiping left or right. So that's largely what you get here as well. So it's quite a familiar, no matter what phone you've had before, it's quite a familiar thing. And then lastly, I've gone for a portable speaker. Now again, I said there were dozens of models of headphones you can get. There are hundreds of speakers that you can get. The amount of invitations to review portable speakers that I turn down like every month. I would literally have 100 a year if I accepted all of them. There are lots of good ones. There are lots of cheap ones. I've gone for an Irish brand called OneSonic. We actually had the designer, the founder and CEO of the company in here a couple of months ago. But he and this company OneSonic, they've been going a few years, and they came out with a speaker called the Mega Mouse. You've seen these speakers. And they actually reduced the price recently. So I think they were about 80 or 90 euro when they brought them, but they're now 60 euro. And they're decent enough on their own. If you buy one of them for 60 euro, they're okay, they're fine, they'll do the job. If you buy a pair of them though, you can hook them up as stereo speakers. You can literally, and they're wireless. So they're rechargeable. You can just charge them up and then leave one on a shelf, leave one on another shelf or different parts of the room. So for 120 quid, you get really, really decent stereo sound in a room.
Yeah. OneSonic is like they put a lot of effort into the actual fidelity of the sound, even in their headphones as well. So like,
I've tested a few OneSonic products, and they're decent. I won't say any more than that they're decent because they're up against really, really big companies with a lot more research and development budget. And that comes through in the sound quality. I mean, it's admirable, and I'm saying that this is worth getting. This speaker is worth getting. But it still is very much at the value end of the market. Like they do another set of speakers called the Quattros, and I have a couple of those as well. And they are good as casual speakers if you put them in a pair. They might be a little bit too expensive though. They're 199 euro, or when I got them, they were 199 euro each. And I can see why, because they have some extra functionality. You can charge your phone from one. They're kind of water resistant. They're very durable. But in terms of sound quality, it's really only worth getting them if you're going to get a pair of them, and then you're into 400 euro. And for 400 euro, you're starting to get into good speakers there.
Yeah, you're sort of getting into like the really exquisite end of things. I suppose there's two or three other honorable mentions in terms of things that I would bring to college or,
Okay.
or maybe have is like blender. You know,
Blender? For what?
for smoothies. You know, that's a college on the go thing. You know,
Smoothies.
yeah,
A lot of
yeah.
students drink
Smoothies, protein shakes, that kind of thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
protein shakes.
Yeah,
Okay, now we're
big
into the
time.
gym community.
Yeah, but I mean,
Ah.
this is a very, I
I
suppose,
mean, are a lot of students? I suppose some students are,
Yeah.
into gyms.
like I mean, $29.99 for a standard blender. You know, in Curry's. A
and
lot
is
of
there
them-
a difference if you go into Aldi, into the middle section in Aldi? Is there a difference in one of those and a blender that you might get in, like an branded blender in a?
That's a fair point. Essentially, what you're getting is sometimes with the really cheap end of blender, if you put ice in it, it sometimes blunts the blades
Oh.
and breaks them.
Breaks them.
Yeah, yeah. So, like, and breaks the actual. It spins out the rotor, and so you can't use it anymore. That's a big one. Power banks is another thing that you mentioned that a parent might get. You know, you can get them again in Power City or Curry's for $17.95,
Yep.
or but I don't know the quality. You know, with a
mean for a
burnout
phone or
for a
for-
phone, you can have multiple different units, like a connection, so you can charge your laptop off
Yeah.
a power bank.
My experience of power banks, I've tried like dozens of them, hundreds of them over the years, is that what you really want is to try and get ones with a powerful voltage out rate for things like tablets and laptops, because what you'll find is when you plug one into a laptop, say, you won't see the battery symbol on the laptop going up much. If you're lucky, it'll just stay steady
Okay.
because there isn't enough power to go. There isn't much enough power channeling to go from the power brick into the laptop. It's different for a phone. You will see your phone's power increase. But yeah, good. That's a good recommendation. A power bank.
And then finally, the air fryers. They're a big thing.
Wow.
Air fryers, I have to say, is one I would.
What you're really talking about is someone who has their own kitchen or their own.
Yeah,
their own
but
digs.
like it's essentially it's like a more effective microwave.
Yeah.
And that you could literally you can boil eggs
Mm-hmm.
in them. So it's like something really simple, or chips that you bought in Lidl or Aldi, and you can stick them in.
And is there any difference between the air fryers?
Not really. They're the brand names versus the non-brand names.
What is a fancy air fryer? What can a fancy air fryer do that a basic one can't?
Nothing, only that it'll tell you exactly what's going on and what temperatures is happening internally in the machine. But you can get them again for $29.95 or under €30.
Okay.
Like a cheap air fryer, and you can pretty much air fry anything. Like
Yeah. What was that brand that became famous for air fryers? You see them if you walk down in Arnott's, or
is it Tefl or Murphy Richards? Is it black ones?
No. It's an actual air fryer, main air fryer brand, and I should know. But I actually, you've raised a good. We're going to have to do a podcast episode on kitchen tech at some point, because that is with the exception of vacuum cleaners, robot vacuum cleaners, which I know quite a bit about, and coffee makers actually as well. I know a little bit about. But other than that, I have not gone into air fryer territory. I've not gone into blender territory, and I've definitely never made a protein shake. But anyway, JJ Clark produced this episode. Thank you very much for chatting today. Paul Donegan was on sound, and you have been listening to or watching The Big Tech Show with me, Adrian Weckler. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.